for the home cinephiles, for the living room athletes, for the sellers on the couch, and for the bedside analysts, for those who work outside their home in order to protect what's inside. I am dissolving social distancing. I am doing it today, as I did yesterday, as I'm going to do it tomorrow. I am all the telecom technology around you, and I thank you for bringing together vital experiences to those around us.
Salut și bine ați venit la o ediție specială a emisiunii ZF IT Generation, dedicată viitorului industriei de software. Vom aborda acest subiect alături de Andres Angelani, CEO al Cognizant Softvision, un lider global în ingineria produselor software, care are și o semnificativă prezență locală. Vom discuta așadar în limba engleză în continuare. Andres, hello and welcome back to our show. We are really thrilled to have you again with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you again for joining us. Cognizant Softvision just finished its 7th edition of Programmers Week. For those of us that could not attend, how did it go and what was the highlight for you?
Yeah, it was actually our best Programmers Week to date. We had more than 11,000 attendees, 77 countries, 125 tech talks, 14 keynotes. So it was really huge, much bigger than it gets bigger every year. But it was really different this time because it was, first of all, it was all virtual. It was inspiring, pretty engaging, and I'm really, really proud of the team that worked so hard to put this event together. So we got really, really good feedback from all those who attended. And for me, it was like the highlight was more the integration with Cognizant as a whole. This is the first year that we've had this event alongside the Cognizant leadership, and they really brought more expertise, reach, excitement. We shared the stage. I particularly shared the stage with Cognizant CEO Brian Humphreys. We basically used this, his personality to really help us launch Game of Pods, which is our new platform for talent development and software delivery. So it was really special this year.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Now, I saw that one of the panel discussions that you participated in was on the future of software. That's certainly a big topic. So how did you and the other panelists come up with that idea for the panel?
Yeah, so it was a natural evolution of our discussion leading up to Programmers Week. As you know, software is everywhere now, so it's so pervasive that really makes the world run for many companies, right? So it has been, the most important strategy and medium in managing through COVID. We really got connected and enabled by software. So we spoke a great deal about the work that we do on behalf of our clients in this sort of process of transformation, pain points we help them address, normally related to helping bridge the old world, not only technologies, but also how they actually do the new modern engineering, modern software, the culture that's required, the issues with the talent gap that we have. As you know, there's not enough people to do this. So it's really creating products really or solutions not just for what they need now, but also what they need in the future. So when it comes right down to it, a good majority of the work that we do at Cognizant Softvision is really helping the clients in that journey, and many of whom are now steeped into technology or software, really that help them just hold their hand as they become software companies, which is not just the technology, it's the organizational dynamics, it's the culture, it's the training, it's a lot of other things. So the future of software, it's obviously for us a huge topic. It's one to some extent we're talking and living and experiencing every day. So that's kind of what it was about.
Okay, I'd like to ask you now, how do you see Cognizant's role in the future of software?
So it's one of the main purpose, right? The from a business standpoint, the future of software is incredibly important. Because that's how we view digital, how we view clients, and how we actually solve problems. On the other hand, our role today will not change for the next decade. It will grow considerably. I think it's bringing together the traditional world and the digital world, and it's a huge role, right? So we have a great deal of legacy issues to contend with, and our strength is to understand both worlds and what we can do at scale. So one of the things is, in order to make that impact is the size of the teams that we can, and that's where we can help it. At the same time, we need to live in both in order to basically build a bridge between the legacy and the new. Our commitment is really reflected in our investments in the space. Over the past few years, Cognizant invested more than $2 billion in M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, to accelerate our digital capabilities. And a great example has been Softvision, for example, and our expertise in agile software development. And this was quickly followed by the acquisition of Tin Roof, Magenic, and Hunter Technical Resources, that all of which now sit within Softvision. So we integrated them within Cognizant Softvision. And all of these investments really have resulted in more clients, more talent, and it has led to the creation of innovative IP that will drive the future of software and product delivery for the next decade, not just for our clients, but also that will help guide our product engineering teams in their day-to-day work. So we're learning from this software and these playbooks that we're putting together jointly within our communities.
Thank you for that. I'm also curious, how do you see things happening if there are some challenges also associated with this future of software, and how are you tackling this? What are you doing to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so the talent shortage will continue to create challenges and opportunities for clients to think differently about how they manage, recruit, and retain, and also for us, right? The clients at both, we will need to organize information differently, including more investments in knowledge management, onboarding, increasing dependence on reusable and rescalable products, really. So in order to kind of create that experience, but also create that connective tissue that allows you to incubate and realize talent. So there has to be a business model that actually helps to incubate, meaning train people that they're either coming out of school, maybe didn't even go to school. So we will have to think much more creatively around this. So a company like ours will be called on really to provide more tools, more software that essentially will be used to counter the increased speed and evolution of technology. And business are challenged really with the speed of transformation and are looking to us to help them and their employees adopt new technologies while also fully utilizing the capabilities that they currently have at their disposal, which is mobile phones and data and collaboration platforms, for example. But much of what companies are faced with is really change management, and our role is to help them create a scalable and easy to use designs for users that really lead to a simple, really business transformation. That allows them to reimagine their industry, embraced by and through digital technology. So when thinking about the future of software, we really can't ignore how we keep things safe, also secure. So cybersecurity is often an extra function, but in this case it will need to be integrated in every step of the way as we design and build the new roadmaps.
As you said earlier, we see software embedded in much more devices than before, ever before. We see what used to be pretty dumb devices now being enhanced with the software. So I'm curious, when do you think about the next decade of software? What do you think is the most important area that you and others need to focus on?
Well, all these different devices and technologies and protocols need to talk to each other and in order to aggregate value. So compatibility is key to the future of software. This aspect of plug and play is normally easier said than done. So every piece of code can't really be written from scratch all the time. So we're thinking about how can we make this happen so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time a new technology comes in. So we're seeing this play out in other industries. So automotive, for example, has cracked or kind of partially cracked this issue, leveraging similar or identical components to make different cars. We need to turn to something I refer to as like future proofing, right? It's where developers and businesses and even consumers really come together to help with this level of compatibility while we design and build something that's custom for them, right? Because as businesses are reimagined this new digital era, nobody wants to be standard. They all want to be custom, but how custom, right? So the guts of the machine should be somewhat compatible so that we can build with more ease and more velocity and resiliency and security. So, compatibility really is key as we move forward in that progress cycle of technology.
Let's go back to the talent shortage that you mentioned a little bit earlier. What's your stand here? What should companies be doing today to help retain and recruit talent?
I believe we're actually not doing enough. The talent shortage is a problem and will be bigger in the future. So there's just simply not enough people. So we'll need to look at a younger generation in other parts of the world, potentially more Asia, more Africa, and in different countries in Europe. There are some countries that we're going in Europe, others that we're a little bit light. I think it just needs to be more of a global phenomenon from a talent perspective, where we not only just think about the traditional engineer when we think about software, because software really is built by a multiplicity of skills. So we need to think more seriously about this, because it's kind of the foundation of the business in the future. The business, collaboration, communication, you can think about it, right? So there's a sort of symbiotic relationship between how much employees embrace also your corporate culture and the agility organization. So we need to work on the agility organization in order to incorporate different talents and put them in this growth path. And also the business needs to tolerate that, right? So, there has to be a financial model that tolerates that. The government needs to understand that they just are not going to be, education is not going to be enough, that the private companies and public companies need to be working together to make this work. So when strong culture really exists, the work communities become less siloed and instead, foster a collaboration environment. We need to build more community, not just inwards, but also outwards. That's what I was trying to say. The new normal really, this innovation culture plays an increasingly large role, whether you're distributed team working from home, collaborating in office. So, bottom line is, we focus a lot on the culture, and we're trying to expand outside of the confines of our own company, because as you know, they say culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is going to be more and more proved in the future. So how we will be successful, really, I think by creating an innovative, creative, and sustainable culture that really attracts and retains the very best. And ability also, and the way that we select people also needs to change. We will need to, we're trending into, understanding a little bit more of the attitude, the personalities, the ability and the eagerness to learn, that sometimes we underestimate. We underestimate potential individuals. We're looking for what we see right now and not how that person is going to be in the future. So, really a younger generation of employees, works and consumers are really committed to also having a bigger purpose. And we need to incorporate that into our corporate vision. The future of software really needs to play a role in that, in saving the planet. We need to consider how software and code really can drive environmentally friendly products as well, practices, methodologies. We need to prioritize sustainability also as an outcome and hold ourselves accountable for that. So there's much bigger purpose in this. This is not just technology, right? Technology, but also technology for the people and for contributing to closing that huge talent gap that we have right now.
Speaking of this talent gap that you mentioned and that we see on every market, I was really curious to know your opinion about some platforms that we see a lot of hype around, some platforms that are using some AI to put together some pieces of code. And I saw a lot of enthusiastic articles about this, so I'm really curious to see your opinion from someone who is within the industry. Can these kind of technologies help to address this shortage of talent? Can software write software?
Yes, it can, but to an extent. We see these more as an augmentation of the role of the engineer, and they can help to basically build and design more simple componentry and to help with repeated coding work. But AI also can detect some patterns, improve algorithms, so improve the performance of the developer, make it faster. But the reality is that it depends on what kind of software product you're building. If the product software is custom and you're supposed to reimagine an experience, you need a human brain. So it's going to be very, very hard to replace. I don't think about replacement. I think more about augmentation when we're talking about, low code or no code technologies. And I have to say, I mean, they're great because they're really centralized, or they help they reduce the more repetitive and boring and and tedious tasks, and also help the programmer overall with performance. But I don't think you just can't replace, not at this point, what our creative force that imagines the interaction, imagines the experience, and then writes the code that realizes that. That's very human. So I don't see that. I think we're still very, 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 very current as humans in the production of software.
Thank you very much for sharing this. I wanted to hear an expert opinion and to ease some trends that we see on the market from people who are not working within the software industry, that are hoping that this big talent shortage can be addressed with some technologies. But as you said, human brain is the main power for innovation and for building unique software pieces. So thank you very much for sharing this. Now, any final words on the future of software that you want people who are watching this interview to live on?
I think that, three things. So the variety also, first is the variety of people that can create software is going to extend very significantly. The best software products are created when you have a combination of schools of thought and cultures, and the more culture aware the software product is, the better it is. So the kinds of people really that build software in the future, they're not just the classic math genius, or they're of course they will continue to be needed, don't get me wrong, but and we love those, but there will be those that understand a tool or domain as well, people who hold it all together, product management, artists, inclusive, architects, people that are good at explaining how technology can work, product marketing. It's very converging at this point. So it's so interesting, so fascinating how just all these different disciplines converge in the creating of great products. So that's the first. So it's for everybody, really. So that's why we always invite. Don't think about software as like, oh, I'm just going to code. No, you can do lots of other things as well. Second is we really build software to help us build better software. And that's a very interesting new trend. We call it methodology as code, ways of building software through software. We launched one with Brian Humphreys the other day. We called it Game of Pots. It was launched at Programmers Week, and this is, for us, is kind of the future in codifying what we build so well, right? So, and we can send out, in addition to that, we can send out pieces of software to be built by the world community as well. So it's progressing to a level in which we can standardize things that we don't have to do ourselves, that we can actually send out. The more compatibility there is, the more pieces of the machinery can actually be sent out to maybe a freelance community to build. So that's another one. It gets democratized quite a lot. And then lastly, really, automation is huge as well, but it's coming to the creation of software. And I said before, more as an augmentation than a replacement, and no code, low code movements will really enable the non-traditional programmer to build software as well out of components that are more modular. So that's another thing that is coming up, which will accelerate the creation of products with AI and machine learning that help eliminate and reduce these tedious tasks and pave the way for quicker and sort of more frequent updates in software as well. So those kind of three things that I think are relevant.
Andres, thank you very much for being today with us and sharing with us those insightful information. Thank you again for joining us again at our show.
Thank you so much for inviting. Pleasure.
Vă mulțumim și dumneavoastră pentru că ne-ați urmărit. A fost o ediție specială a emisiunii ZF IT Generation. La revedere!